around 60% of newly formed couples have met off dating apps. So it's become by far the number one most common way to meet people. And on dating apps, the number one most important trait is your appearance, your attractiveness. It outweighs all other traits, outweighing intelligence by about 10 times, which is quite funny because women always say that they want an intelligent guy, a smart guy. But it's not true, like most of their preferences, because if that were true, then you would see your Isaac Newtons, your von Neumanns getting all the women. And that's simply not what happened. Especially nowadays, you would see engineers and scientists attracting all these women, but it's not at all what happens. They simply say intelligence because they think of it as a positive word, and they ascribe this positive word to somebody that they find physically attractive so that they can say they like them for this positive trait rather than being so vain as to like them for their physical appearance. And this all happens subconsciously. But if most people meet on dating apps and attractiveness is the most important factor, that means that all those people who are not attractive, specifically men, are completely screwed. They're not doing well at all. Now, if you are below 22, let's say, and you're in college, you're probably not doing too terribly because you can at least have a social circle. But once you've graduated, there's not much you can do if you don't already have something going on. That's why people tend to struggle dating so much. For one, you're not allowed to date your coworkers. Even if some people do, it's generally against policy and it's discouraged. And there's not really any environments that you have that are with women. And dating apps are so anti human, I would say, because they deny so many parts of attraction that don't have to do with physical looks. For example, pheromones, which is how you smell, it has a really important factor because that has to do with your immune system and the compatibility with the other person. So subconsciously, that smell plays a big role, and that, of course, is completely missing. Another thing is personality. I know, even though personality is highly associated with looks, it's not entirely looks. So you can be more compatible with a person. Maybe you guys like the same things, or maybe you simply have similar personality traits. That is obviously not shown very well in dating apps. You cannot boil down the complete human experience. You can't boil down somebody's life. You can't boil down how attractive somebody is with a couple of photos on the screen. It's ridiculous. And you might say, well, as long as you meet people in person, then you'll be fine. But that's not true. Why? Because this dating app effect leaks over into the real world. So if you know any women that have dating apps and you try to ask them out, you try to be into them, you will have an advantage over those guys on the apps. But you still will have to be competing against hundreds of men because she will think to herself, I literally have 300 men on my phone who are interested in me. That was never available throughout history. And also, the dating app experience as an average woman versus an average man, they will seriously get hundreds of likes within the span of a week, whereas an average guy might get one like from a non attractive woman in a month. That's without exaggeration. Even if you're above average attractiveness, you will not do well. Only if you're Sean O'Pry, you're Gandhi, or something like that, will you actually do well with dating apps. So even if you don't have a dating app, you are still competing against all those guys who do have a dating app if the woman you're going after does have a dating app as well. It's such a terrible situation. You know, the hypergamy used to be constrained locally. So the pretty cheerleader might get with the high school quarterback. But once they were together, they stayed together and then they got married later. So nobody else was competing with them. So that The next guy could go and find a girl, and then the next guy could go and find a girl. Now what we have is serial monogamy. So people go on date after date, getting into relationship after relationship. Some people have had more than 5 girlfriends or boyfriends. That's absurd. And a lot of people are hooking up, getting together, destroying their ability to pair bond with other people. And we wonder how we got in this position. But that's how. So, of course, men are looks maxing because they're responding to their environment. Their environment has basically said you are only valued based upon how you look, not really your achievements, not your personality, not your intelligence, how you look. So then they're going to respond to that by getting plastic surgery, going to the gym, some of them wearing makeup, things like that. So, really, it's not hard to understand. But what should you do with the situation? Well, of course, try to meet people in person. It's not going to be perfect, it's not a silver bullet, but it's better than the alternatives. And not only cold approach, which is okay, not my favorite, but more like be in a repeatable environment with that same person, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's your classes, things like that. So it's easier if you're below a certain age. If you're above a certain age, it becomes harder. And I'm not gonna lie, there's a good chance that it won't work. But it's the only thing that can work. If you've tried dating apps and they're not doing it for you, it's probably not because of an adjustment that you need to make in your bio or anything. It's probably that that's not the working strategy for you and you need to switch off of it. However, I will say have your expectations low, don't expect much, and then you won't be disappointed. That's a bit of my advice. But yeah, that's about it. See ya.